All right. We are, oh, I guess I can't say that, right? Last time he got mad at me because I always said,
She always starts everything with, all right, here we go now.
It's too late now. All right's out of the bag.
How about this? We are going to be on live right now with Jared St. Clair. Now, Jared is one of those guys that you can actually ask most any questions to about natural health, and he has an answer. And part of that reason is because he grew up in this lifestyle and in this living, I guess, ever since your dad had the health food store, right? Way back when you were a kid.
45 years ago.
Yeah. So he is the owner of Vitality Nutrition, and he does the radio show every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on 1280 The Zone. It's called Vitality Radio. And he also has a podcast, which is I just have it on my thing. I don't know. It's just Vitality.
It's just Vitality Radio Podcast.
Yeah. Vitality Radio Podcast.
All the podcast apps.
Yeah, awesome. So Jared is really great to have at our conference. He is very knowledgeable. He's going to be one of our speakers. He's going to be speaking on Saturday, but he just has so much information, and because he knows so much about so many things, because he owns a health food store, basically. He's very informed on what products are good, what products aren't so good, things of that nature. So that's why we really appreciate him. But he is one of those who is very much trying to share the message on how to get well and stay well naturally, for sure.
Well, I'm just glad you clarified that you can ask me anything about natural health, because if you ask me about what's going on in Ukraine, no idea. Can't help you there. But yeah, my goal in life is to try and help as many people learn about the alternative ways of healing that are available to them that, frankly, most people in this country especially don't know. We have a very mono focus, I think, in terms of health care in America. It's mostly go to the doctor, get the prescription or the procedure, and be on your way. And I believe certainly in more of a preventative approach, but also that there are all kinds of natural things that can be done. One of my favorite things to talk about is simply how to avoid antibiotics, which is way easier than most people think. Most people don't think there's an alternative for strep throat or an ear infection or a urinary tract infection, things like that. And there absolutely are very effective things that are, frankly, pretty easy to do that don't cause the collateral damage that antibiotics do. So those types of topics are favorites of mine. This time of year, I like to talk about the sunshine and how the sun has been demonized, and we're supposed to, run and hide whenever the sun's out, or
take about a gallon of stuff to cover your body, to cover yourself
exactly up. And the sunscreen that we're being told to use probably causes more cancer than the sun itself. So those are the types of topics that I talk about on the radio. For your event, I'm really excited because I get to talk about what is probably my favorite topic now, and that is how to access your optimal mental health through supplementation, diet, and also recognizing patterns in your subconscious mind to take you where you really want to be in life. And that's such a fun topic. I only have less than an hour to speak, but I could speak on it for about 12. Say that again, Shane.
Explain a little bit about that, so they have kind of an idea of what that means.
So one of the other presenters at your conference, the Be Healthy Utah conference, is Lamont Wilcox, who, interestingly enough, I met 4 years ago at your conference, and an amazing guy who I learned a lot from, and who I've actually taken what he has taught me and even added a few things to it, particularly in the supplemental realm, which is more my wheelhouse,
right?
To help people figure out how to get unstuck in life. Before coming on this little live chat with you, I was actually writing an email all about what this is. And it's an interesting thing because we get in these patterns of behavior in our brains, and it's primarily subconscious. We don't actually recognize those patterns when we are stuck in them, but we recognize the end result when we continue ending up in the same place, whether it's an addiction to something, or it's something in the mental health realm like anxiety or depression or OCD, things like that. And they really are all just patterns that we're following subconsciously, and we recognize that we are stuck, but we have a hard time accessing those patterns to figure out how to get unstuck. Lamont calls them maps, and I've added a little bit to that. We call it meanings and perception, because we have these meanings behind things and we have perceptions. And one of the things that I say a lot that raises eyebrows is I don't know that I believe necessarily the same as I used to believe about right and wrong. Most of us have very strong opinions about what's right and what's wrong. But if you look at what's just recently happened, for instance, with COVID, there were people who were 100% convinced that COVID vaccines were right, and people that were 100% convinced that COVID vaccines were wrong. And you couldn't convince either one of those people that they were wrong. And so who's right in that situation? If I'm just as right as the next person and I have a completely different belief than that next person, who's to say I'm right and who's to say they're wrong, and vice versa? And so perception is a huge factor in our overall path in life, our wellness, and our mental health. And if we recognize where our perceptions are coming from, and a lot of the things that have essentially been programmed into our minds, then we are able to find mental and emotional freedom on a level that really you can't explain until you find it. It's fascinating and powerful stuff.
No, that's cool.
You know, I remember when you came and spoke at the first conference, I had asked you, I'm like, well, Jared, are you going to do a podcast? And you're like, I don't know about that. I don't, like, I want to do it someday. And anyways, after you went in Lamont, that's when you started to really start doing your podcast and now you have another podcast, and you were just able to break through some of these things because it's all about our perception in things in life. We can have two different situations, but the way that we look at it can be totally different.
Yeah, I got myself unstuck by learning some techniques from Lamont, for sure. Because truth is, when you asked me that question, I absolutely wanted a podcast. I was overwhelmed at the idea of how to create one and make it look and sound right and all that kind of stuff. And
the crazy thing is you have a radio show every week that all you have to do is put transfer to podcast, and it was basically there. So you had it easy.
There was some hidden stuff behind the scenes that was bogging me down, but truth is there was no really good excuse. You're absolutely right. I had a bunch of kind of vague, I don't even know if I'd call them fears, but reservations.
The unknown. You're not sure what it is until you do it, right? For sure.
And it was and it was long overdue. The show's been around for 13, almost 14 years now. The podcast is now just in its third year. And I have recognized with the podcast, I'm reaching far more people than I ever was with the radio, which is what I've always wanted to do. So why didn't I do it 5 years earlier? Is that a question that you're asking?
Because you don't have a wife that tells you have to do this.
He hadn't come to our conference yet and had Liz say, "Why aren't you doing a podcast?"
Yeah. So it is fascinating stuff because it can be little things. I mean, I don't know if that's a little thing. For my professional life, that was a big thing, getting the podcast launched. But there are, relationship things that you can improve. There are all types of different areas of being stuck. It's the best way I know how to put it. Whether you're stuck in a depressed state or an anxious state or a relationship that is constantly causing stress in your life, learning some of these techniques can make an absolute mind-blowing difference. And then if you also address the underlying issues that are probably happening in your gut and in your physical health that is slowing down your mental processes or giving you incomplete mental communication, then you can make just substantial improvements. It's really, really fascinating stuff.
So this last week we listened to you're on the radio, your podcast, and I think you interviewed, wasn't Dr. Britton, right? Is about the mental health and about the supplementation for the brain, right? Wasn't that
Dr. Bredesen? Yeah.
Bredesen, Bredesen. And then that's what you're going to also be talking a lot about, how these supplementations can actually help your brain function too, because sometimes we're just lacking some of these nutrients or, things that we're not getting in our normal day food that can help us with our brain function.
Absolutely. I had a client just to give you an example of just filling in some missing puzzle pieces. I had a client in just yesterday. I do nutritional consultations, and she came and saw me 2 months ago, came in again yesterday for a follow-up visit. and her self-described energy level was a 0 when I saw her last time, and she put it at an 8 this time, her physical energy. She was, for lack of a more scientific term, she was pooping once or twice a week, and now she's once or twice a day, which is how it ought to be.
And people don't realize that it's really sad that people don't realize that that's not
a big deal. Yeah.
And they don't understand that when it just sits in your gut, it just keeps fermenting and puts out all the toxins into your body. And yet people don't understand that. And it's just like, no, that if you've eaten that many times, you're supposed to be eliminating too.
It's normal for them, so they think it's normal, period. Yeah. And she actually recognized it was a problem, but she didn't know how to fix it.
Right.
And then she was getting headaches every single day. She said she'd had 3 headaches in the last 2 months after having one every single day before coming to see me. And the crazy thing is, as I was reviewing what we had done, I literally, all I did was recommend 3 supplements that were clearly deficient in her diet, and really simple things: magnesium and digestive enzymes, and trying to remember what the third thing was now. Just a really unique multivitamin that filled in a lot of gaps for. And then I had her make a major switch from a lot less to a lot less coffee and a lot more water. And bam, her life is dramatically improved. She was just absolutely thrilled. And we didn't do anything weird. It was just really basic.
Yeah, it was pretty fairly simple. But the problem was that, if I'm just understanding a little bit of the patient, the person was drinking their coffee so they could have energy.
Right.
The problem is coffee is a diuretic, so it flushes their, they're not, that water system is not being used to help in the digestive system, right? To be able to help, through the bowels and everything, and just little things like that. It's just crazy. Like, I know that you're kind of famous for, you have like I think you start out with the 5 things you should have every day.
Yeah, the Vital 5.
The Vital 5. Yeah. So can you just share those really quick? Because that's a little
that's actually what I spoke at Be Healthy Utah on last time. It's a good, and this is really important, multivitamin. Most multivitamins on the market are not great. In fact, I would say most of them you're better off without, the Centrums of the world. A good multivitamin to fill in all the basic gaps. Magnesium and other trace minerals, but especially magnesium, is a big factor that the vast majority of us are deficient in. That's one of my favorite things to talk about. Probiotics, but again, very unique probiotics that I'm a proponent of. Digestive enzymes. Most of us, by the time we're 30, 35 years old, are quite deficient in digestive enzymes, which really puts a strain on our digestive system and can create everything from gas and bloating and constipation to acid reflux and things like that. And then the last one is omega-3s. Most people have heard they're deficient in omega-3s. A lot of people take omega-3s. In America now, I think omega-3s are the 3rd most used supplement behind multivitamins and vitamin D. But most people don't take nearly enough omega-3. The clinical research shows we need 2,000 to 3,000 milligrams of omega-3, and most people are taking 300 to 600 milligrams of omega-3 per day. So that's the big 5 that I recommend, because if I don't know anything about you, I can safely assume that if you're over 30 years old, you're deficient in those 5 things.
Now, is vitamin D not in your Vital 5?
Vitamin D is not, only because you can get it from the sun. If you're doing it the way I consider right, and I just said there's no right and wrong, but if you're doing it right, vitamin D can be had from the sun. I do supplement vitamin D personally during the winter months. I do not during the summer, because I make sure I'm getting plenty of sun exposure during the summer, and make sure my kids are as well, to get the vitamin D.
Well, it helps when you don't have hair on that head to be able to get more D.
This is a vitamin D factor. Absolutely.
That's why you do it, man. I mean, I need to look at that.
So yeah, that's how we do it.
Well, Jared, we're so glad that you're going to be part of the conference, and you have a code that you have, Jared 30, and
Vitality 30.
Vitality.
Right? Yeah,
that's right.
Jared 30, you're paying full price.
She's literally put about 500 codes into our system.
Oh, and I just noticed Vitality spelled wrong down there too, but we'll that's a little typo, but it's Vitality 30, and you get both days for $30, right? Instead of 47.
Okay, so should we change the ticker?
Maybe so, yeah.
Should we change it over VITA? Oh, right there. See?
Yeah, you got an L where a T goes.
VIT, yep. We're gonna change this right here so people can see.
I will say this too while you're changing that, and I've been saying this on Vitality Radio for the last 5-6 weeks. this is, yes, I want you to come listen to me. I'm speaking at 11 o'clock on Saturday. I would love to have you there. But this conference and what you guys have done, Shane and Liz, is really, really amazing, because here in Utah, I've been doing the natural health thing my whole life. And yet it is at this conference that I met some of the most influential people in my journey in natural health 4 years ago when you first started this thing with Lamont. And through that, I met Casey Oliver, who's also going to be speaking. My personal physician, Dr. Cameron, is going to be there speaking. He's fantastic. And this year I've been able to meet several others. Karen Urbanik, who was on my show.
Yeah, you had a really good.
She's amazing. This thing is like, if you're talking natural health in Utah, this is a who's who of natural health in Utah, and it is absolutely worth your time. You want to be at this event, and I highly encourage you to check it out, because it is going to be so much fun, and you will learn things you need to know that you probably didn't even know existed. I know that's exactly what happened with me. And considering where I come from and the exposure I have to these things, it's not always easy for me to learn new things when it comes to natural health. And I've even been able to do that at the Be Healthy Utah Conference. So it is an awesome event. I highly encourage anybody watching, listening to attend. It is well worth your time.
Well, thank you so much for the very kind words. It's a lot of effort and a lot of work on our part, but it is a labor of love, because we just want people to be able to be there so they can learn for themselves, right? And that's why we're doing discount codes. That's why we're doing all this stuff. Yesterday we had our best ticket day sale, which is awesome. We just need more of those, because it's all about getting people there for them to be able to learn and understand what you were able to do, even though this is your industry, right?
Yeah.
So if you can learn, anyone can learn in that aspect. I mean, because most people don't have the knowledge you have. And if you have that much knowledge in this space and you're still learning other things, like I had a new booth just come on yesterday. They have a machine, and they say that they're able to take care of Lyme in 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, that's unheard of. Now, I don't know much about it. I want to learn a bit more about it, but it goes to the cellular level and it knocks it out. And it's insane. That's if that is true, that's a game changer. That is a game changer.
Yeah, for sure.
Huge game changer, right?
And the thing is, I don't discount any of that stuff, out of hand. Some of it almost sounds too good to be true. And unfortunately, in every industry, there are things that are too good to be true. But this stuff is all worthy of investigation. There are answers. I really do believe sincerely that God gave us answers to all of these health questions that we have, whether it be the most recent thing with COVID or things like cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and so on and so forth, Lyme disease, any of these types of things that we have the potential to come across and be afflicted with here on this earth. I believe there are answers. So the question is, how do you find those answers? And I will tell you that a basic Google search oftentimes is not the answer. So finding those answers at conferences like this, there's real power in the synergy of all of the good people that'll be there sharing these messages. And yeah, I'm really excited about it. The only thing I'm a little bit hesitant about it all is that we're going to have a booth there for Vitality and Vitality Radio. And I'll be spending a lot of time in the booth, meaning that I'm not going to get as much time out there meeting and greeting with everybody else. So,
right, I know.
So that's the only downside right there for me. But as a spectator, come and just load up on all the goodness and the good information, because it is going to be great.
Well, Jared, thanks for coming on today. We have our next one coming up in just a couple minutes. So if people want to stay on, and we're going to be having our next Facebook Live starting in like 4 minutes.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate
you spreading the word and all you do for natural health. Thanks so much, Jared.
And you as well. Thank you.
See you later.